India's journey to becoming the world's leading power in 2025 is a story of transformation, resilience, and vision. For decades, the nation was often seen through the lens of its challenges: poverty, inequality, underdevelopment, and limited infrastructure. Yet behind those challenges lay a quiet determination, a belief that progress was not only possible but inevitable if pursued with discipline and focus. The rise we see today is not an overnight miracle. It is the result of deliberate choices, consistent reforms, and the collective will of more than 1 billion people who refused to accept limitations as their destiny. The roots of this transformation can be traced to the reforms of the early 1990s, when India began opening its economy to global markets. That decision marked a turning point. It unleashed the potential of entrepreneurs, encouraged innovation, and positioned India as a rising force in trade and commerce. Over time, technology became a central pillar of this rise. From the flourishing IT sector to the homegrown start-ups that turned into global companies, India proved that it could compete at the highest level. This confidence was not confined to boardrooms. It spread into classrooms, research labs, and households, shaping a generation that saw itself as builders of a new future. The digital revolution played a decisive role in accelerating this journey. In less than 2 decades, India created one of the world's most sophisticated digital ecosystems. Mobile banking, digital identity, online education, and e-commerce brought millions into the formal economy. Villages once cut off from opportunity found themselves connected to markets, services, and ideas. This mass inclusion changed the trajectory of development, demonstrating that growth could be broad-based rather than limited to the wealthy. It showed the world that technology, when applied with scale and vision, could lift entire populations into new levels of participation. Equally important was India's demographic strength. With a youthful population entering the workforce each year, India possessed something other great powers lacked: energy, ambition, and the creativity of youth. Instead of becoming a liability, this demographic became a driving force for growth. Skilled workers filled roles in technology, healthcare, engineering, and research, both at home and abroad. Their contributions did not just strengthen India's economy, they connected India to the global network of knowledge and innovation. This global presence reinforced its image as a nation whose rise was tied to the rise of others, not at their expense. Infrastructure and urban transformation also played their part. Roads, airports, ports, and railways expanded to match the needs of a growing economy. Smart cities emerged, blending modern planning with sustainability. Renewable energy became a national priority, with India investing heavily in solar and wind power, proving that development and environmental responsibility could go hand in hand. These efforts were not just domestic achievements. They positioned India as a leader in solving global challenges, from climate change to sustainable growth. But numbers and projects alone cannot explain the transformation. At the heart of India's rise lies its democratic spirit. Despite its diversity and complexity, India remained committed to the principle that every citizen's voice matters. This democratic resilience was not without struggle, but it gave India something unique: legitimacy in its rise. The world recognized that 1 billion people had chosen their leaders, shaped their destiny, and driven progress forward through collective action. This gave India a moral authority that elevated its influence on the global stage. Another factor was India's ability to adapt and learn from setbacks. Economic downturns, health crises, and security challenges tested the nation repeatedly. Each time, India responded with resilience. The global pandemic of 2020, for example, could have crippled progress, yet India turned adversity into opportunity. By becoming a major producer of vaccines and supplying them to countries in need, it displayed both capacity and compassion. That moment revealed not only India's technological and industrial capability, but also its willingness to shoulder responsibility beyond its borders. This transformation also reshaped India's place in global governance. By 2025, its economy ranked among the largest in the world, and its voice in forums like the G20 BRICS and the United Nations carried weight. Other nations understood that no conversation about the future, whether on climate, trade, or security, could exclude India. It had become not just a participant, but a driver of international consensus. That change signaled the arrival of India as more than a rising nation. It had arrived as a leading power. For many observers, the lesson of this journey is profound. India's success was not the result of abandoning its identity or imitating others. It came from embracing its strengths, its diversity, its democracy, its cultural richness, while modernizing its systems and institutions. It showed that a nation could remain true to its values and still compete at the highest levels of global power. The path of transformation is therefore about more than statistics or milestones. It is about the belief that a nation of immense diversity, of ancient traditions and modern aspirations, can rise together. It is about the millions of ordinary citizens who dreamed of a better life and worked tirelessly to achieve it. And it is about the message that India now sends to the world that progress is possible when a country invests in its people, embraces innovation, and holds fast to the principle that the future belongs to those who dare to shape it. India's rise to the top in 2025 is not just a national triumph. It is a lesson for humanity. It tells us that no nation is forever bound by its struggles, that the barriers of the past can be overcome, and that with vision and persistence, transformation on a historic scale is possible. This is why the story of India's journey resonates far beyond its borders. It is not only India's story, it is a shared reminder of what the world can achieve when people and nations believe in the power of change. When we talk about leadership in the modern world, we must understand that power today is measured differently than it was in the past. In earlier centuries, superpowers were defined almost entirely by their military might or their ability to conquer territory. Later, economic dominance became the central measure of global standing. But in today's interconnected world, leadership is about more than strength or size. It is about values, about responsibility, and about the ability to shape the future in ways that uplift not only one nation, but many. India's position as the world's #1 superpower in 2025 reflects this new definition of leadership, one that blends influence with integrity and ambition with accountability. India's rise is not simply a story of numbers, how much it produces, how large its army is, or how vast its population may be. Those facts are significant, but they are not the full picture. What truly sets India apart is the vision it carries into the world. It represents the principle that democracy can thrive even at an enormous scale, that diversity can be a source of strength rather than division, and that a nation can lead not through domination, but through example. This is a powerful shift in how leadership is understood, and it redefines what it means to be a superpower in the 21st century. True leadership means recognizing that challenges like climate change, pandemics, technological disruption, and inequality do not respect borders. They demand cooperation. India's role as a leader is not to dictate terms, but to convene voices, to bring nations together, and to craft solutions that serve the many, not just the few. This is why India's leadership resonates across continents. It demonstrates that the greatest power a nation can hold is the power to unite others around common goals. Take climate change as an example. For decades, the global debate has been marked by division between developed and developing nations. Yet India, while still addressing its own growth needs, has become a champion of renewable energy, investing heavily in solar power and sustainable infrastructure. By doing so, it sends a message: leadership is not about pointing fingers or waiting for others to act. It is about taking responsibility and leading by doing. That sense of responsibility defines India's role as a superpower not of conquest, but of conscience. The same principle applies to technology and innovation. India's digital transformation has shown the world how a developing country can leapfrog old barriers and create systems that empower millions. From digital identity to mobile banking, India has built models that other nations are now studying and adopting. Leadership here is not about hoarding knowledge, but about sharing it. It is about showing how technology can serve the poor as well as the wealthy, the rural as well as the urban. This inclusive vision of progress challenges older models of development that left entire populations behind. Cultural leadership is another dimension. India's traditions, philosophies, and practices have influenced the world for centuries, but in the modern era, they have taken on new relevance. Yoga, meditation, cinema, music, and literature are not simply forms of art or wellness. They are carriers of values, balance, resilience, harmony, and storytelling that speaks across cultures. A superpower that exports not only goods and services, but also ideas and inspiration wields a form of influence that no weapon can match. It shapes how people live, think, and connect with one another. In this way, India's cultural reach deepens its leadership, reminding the world that greatness is not measured only in steel and concrete, but in the ability to inspire hearts and minds. Leadership also means standing as a symbol of possibility. For many nations in the global south, India's rise is proof that a large, diverse, and once poor country can achieve global prominence without abandoning its democratic principles. It shows that leadership is not the monopoly of a few privileged nations, but a role open to any country that combines vision with determination. This moral example matters. It reassures smaller nations that the international order need not be defined solely by the ambitions of the few most powerful states. It can include voices from every corner of the globe, and it can be shaped by those who have walked the path of struggle and transformation themselves. Of course, leadership also requires balance. A nation at the top of the global stage must exercise restraint as well as ambition. It must recognize that the weight of power comes with responsibility for peace. India's leadership in 2025 reflects this understanding. It seeks not to dominate its neighbors, but to engage them, not to impose, but to persuade, not to escalate conflicts, but to resolve them. This approach distinguishes true leadership from mere power. For while power may compel obedience, leadership earns respect. And yet, there is an unease that comes with such a shift. Established powers often measure leadership by the old standards. How many aircraft carriers a nation has, or how many trillions its economy produces. When they see India rising with a different model, one built on democracy, diversity, and cooperation, it unsettles them. They fear losing their grip on global influence. But that is precisely the point. India's leadership is reshaping the meaning of superpower itself. It is teaching the world that strength can be inclusive, that power can be compassionate, and that influence can be exercised without domination. In the end, the meaning of leadership in the modern world is about creating a future where nations rise together. It is about understanding that security, prosperity, and dignity are interconnected, and that no nation can stand truly strong while others remain weak. India's rise embodies this principle. It proves that leadership is not about standing above others, but about standing with them. It is about using power not as a tool of fear, that as a bridge of hope. That is the essence of India's new role in 2025. Not simply as the largest, not simply as the strongest, but as the leader that redefines what true power means. It is the kind of leadership the modern world needs, not the leadership of conquest, but the leadership of cooperation, not the leadership of dominance, but the leadership of dignity. And in that shift lies the promise of a better, more balanced, and more hopeful global future.